So I'm so grateful that you came to talk about our SARE grants. I'm Miranda Duschack. I work with Lincoln University Cooperative Extension, and I'm based here in St. Louis City. And I have a speaker with me today. Ryan Tenney is going to be speaking about their grants that they're working on in relationship to SARE and the other work that they're working on. So that's what's going to happen today. We're going to start with my presentation. We're going to move on to Ryan, and then we'll end up with a Q&A. So if there's something that isn't clear during the presentation, please stop us. We'll try to keep an eye on the chat. Andrew, can you keep an eye on the chat if I can? Yep. Okay, so feel free to interrupt us, and I think you're in the right place. So we're going to talk about grants and SARE grants, and the goal of this course right now is just really to help you think through, talk about if it's the right time to have a grant, tools to help you evaluate the quality of your idea, grant opportunities, diving deeper into the opportunities with the North Central Region SARE, explain a bit about the evaluation and scoring process, and offer additional extension resources. So my name is Miranda Duschack. I have a heart for farmers and ranchers, and I have been working in a capacity as agriculture educator for Lincoln University since 2010. And are you stopping the coffee? Sorry, everyone, the coffee maker is right behind us. It's okay. So anyway, so with my work with the Innovative Small Farmers Outreach Program, we with Lincoln University, Missouri's oldest historically Black college and university, has a College of Agriculture. I and the small farm team worked for that College of Agriculture with state extension specialists and educators across the state to work with you, residents of the state of Missouri, to provide consultation services around agriculture. And one of that is helping with grants. So additionally, I have a commercial family farm in St. Louis City. I grow cut flowers and have been doing that since 2012. So this presentation will be given to you electronically. You know, you can take notes furiously, but also realize all this is available on the website, and the SARE resources, these resources, we can share them with you electronically for sure. This is where we have members of the Innovative Small Farmers Outreach Program from Lincoln University. We see these highlighted regions, and right now in the room, folks, we are happy to introduce, coming straight out of Leslie, Missouri, is Ms. Mary Bowling. Mary, see if the owl will turn to you. Talk.
Oh, hello.
Did it turn? We're trying some remote camera work.
No.
Oh, rats. Well, Mary, explain who you are.
I am a farm outreach worker serving Franklin, Jefferson, and Crawford counties. And my husband and I have a small rotational grazing farm near Leslie in Franklin County.
And Mary is a SARE grant recipient herself, everyone, farmer and rancher grant recipient over there. And then coming from the other side of the state, straight out of Kansas City, comes Azula Maximilian. Here she is, everybody. You want to say hey?
Hello, everyone. I'm Izula. I'm a farm outreach worker in Jackson County, and I'm based in Kansas City, Missouri.
Yeah, great. So here we are, and we have several other members of our team. We had new staff join us today, so they are not included on this list, but here's a list of people in various areas that you can reach out to help you with your grants. Okay. So we're talking about the SARE grant today, and it's an accessible grant, meaning the barrier to it financially is sort of different than the rest of grants, right? But it still takes energy. What's our non-renewable resource is time, right? So when we think about starting a project, I just think the big question is, do you have the capacity, right? And if you've never managed a grant before, SARE is a good place to start. And an easier entry may be something like the Youth Educator Grant, which is like $6,000, or the Farmer Rancher Grant, which is $15,000 for a project of one. So if you're trying to get used to this process, SARE's a good option. If you're not ready, ask to be a collaborating farmer on a project, or connect with perhaps a state specialist, someone who works for extension or a not-for-profit, some kind of partnership that you could work with if you're not ready to take it on full board, but you want to learn about being a grant. If you have an employee, is the employee really into it? What if they leave? And just keep in mind, I think that people sort of forget that you need to have an outreach plan, basically with all of these grants, but specifically with SARE. And so outreach can look like Ryan coming here and talking with us about their projects. You know what I mean? Outreach can look like a 2-week workshop. It can look like flyers, lots of different things, but you're gonna have to do something. And all of this put together is time consuming. So just really with grants, record keeping is vital. And if you don't, the way SARE is structured, if you don't turn in your reports in a timely manner, they won't release more funds. So in other grants, they may not reimburse your funds. So it's just going into it, having like simple yet effective record keeping strategies so you can stay on top of it, right? And if you're going to be late, communicate with them in writing. Maybe you need an extension. Just talk to people. People just want to know what's going on, right? And the funders really want you to succeed. So when we talk about record keeping, this could be something like the numbers of beetles on a plant, right? Maybe you're working on something with some pest issue, or weeds per square foot, cost per stem of something you're selling, staff that you and your the hours that you and your staff have worked on this project. So these are all things that you need to keep track of. And this goes into, do you have the capacity? Okay, here's a pretty picture of zinnias. Aren't they beautiful? These were grown on my farm. Oh, thank you. Oh, I got a clap from Miss Andrew Erb. Is there now I'm gonna pause here and just, anyone have any questions at this point? I know we just got into it. Okay, good. Beautiful. Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry, I couldn't unmute real quick. Hi, everyone. Hi, Miranda.
Miss Karen Greer, hello. Good to hear your voice.
Yes, ma'am. Will these slides be emailed to us after the presentation?
Absolutely. They'll go through the email, and if there's some reason, I know how to get a flash drive to you for sure.
Okay, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad you're here.
Miranda, I have a question. This is Eric Work. Where is your farm located in St. Louis City?
Oh, yes, we're located on Tennessee Avenue in between Itasca and Delore in the Dutchtown neighborhood by St. Mary's High School. Do you know where that is?
Yeah, approximately. Sure do. I grew up in Webster Groves, but I'm currently residing in St. Peters and moving to my farm whenever I get my act together down in Potosi.
Oh, yeah.
And I just want to put a personal plug for Mary Bowling. I've had the opportunity to work with her on attend several events with her. Amazing resource for the St. Louis area. So,
Hi, Eric.
hey, how are you? Anyway, I just put a shameless plug in for her work and all the work that Lincoln University does, as well as University of Missouri Extension. So it's a collaborative effort.
Well, indeed, Eric, I appreciate that. And that spot. Welcome, come on in. Are you here for the SARE workshop? Yeah, please come on in. Come on. Well, Mary is great. Our team is really strong and we're happy to have her. So, okay, Eric, thank you for that. Maybe put it in writing and we'll send it on up the line to the Director of Extension. Okay. Woo. All right. So I think the best way to start with grants is really to have an idea and find a grant that matches your idea instead of finding a grant and trying to come up with an idea, right? So the orientation should be, or could be perhaps, I have this idea, what's a good fit? You can contact the Michael Fields Institute. They're out of Wisconsin and they can help you locate grants. And when they do that, or when you look through all these grants, there's just some lingo that would be helpful for you to know. When we talk in grants language, we talk about a request for proposals or request for applications. These are it outlines what the granting agency will fund, what you need to have for your documents and deadlines. And it'll also contain that application. And the last thing that's pretty important is that it will have a rubric, or it'll explain the scoring for the grants. So what is needed in each section and how it is scored. So for instance, if you're saying that you will work with beginning farmers, in your grant, you need to prove that you have relationships with beginning farmers, organizations that serve beginning farmers, right? And you'll be scored on that. If you don't have a letter of support indicating any sort of collaborative partnerships, you will be, you may not score as highly. Okay, so what is out there? We're going to focus today on sustainable agriculture research and education. Specifically, the Farmer Rancher Grant is one that people have availed themselves of, but we're going to talk about the other sort of cadre of SARE products or programs that are available. So the Farmer Rancher Grant is $15,000 for an individual or $30,000 for a farm partnership grant. What's interesting about this one is the funds don't need to be split evenly. So you just, you know, one farm might be taking the bulk of the heavy lifting on the grant. You still have a partnership with another farm, but perhaps the funds are distributed with one farm receiving more funds than another. There's the Youth Educator Grant, which we'll get to more in-depthly, but this is specifically geared towards starting that continuing supporting that youth education initiative. And then we have the Partnership Grant. And this one, kind of more farmers are accessing. So when we see like what's being funded through SARE, it'd be farmers are getting funded through Farmer Rancher Grant, Youth Educator, and then kind of the next is this partnership, and that can be up to $50,000. And this is intended to foster cooperation between you, the farmer, and us, Cooperative Extension, or perhaps Known and Grown, or some other Urban Harvest STL, for instance, some other organization where you're bringing these agricultural professionals together with farmers to complete a program. And then we also have the Research and Education Grant, which is, I think, has the highest bar for farmer kind of success, right? And that one requires partnerships with ag professionals. So let's just back up a little bit and just kind of get to what is sustainable agriculture, right? There are lots of terms out there, like what is regenerative agriculture, and you know, what does organic mean? Well, all right, we have an actual legal definition of what sustainable agriculture is according to the US government, which the US government is funding this grant program, right? So it's all kind of circular, you know? We look at their definitions because we're getting their funding. And under the law, the term sustainable agriculture means an integrated system of plant and animal production practices, having a site-specific application that will, over the long term, satisfy human food and fiber needs, enhance environmental quality, the natural resource base, make the most efficient use of non-renewable resources, and integrate natural biological cycles and controls, sustain the economic viability of farm operations, and enhance the quality of life for farmers and society as a whole. So we talk about this sort of simply as the three-legged stool of sustainability, right? We have environmental, financial, and social. Are we being good stewards, good community with our land, with our soil, our microorganisms, mammal, you know, are we being good to the soil, right? And then we have financial. Is our farm allowing us to earn a living and inspires our children to want to take this up as a way of life? And then are we making a social impact? Are we being positive in our community? So this is what we're looking at when we talk about sustainable agriculture. SARE is a USDA program that was founded in 1988, and it's a farmer-driven research and knowledge-sharing program, right, that encourages farmers, ranchers, educators, and researchers to experiment and around growing food and agricultural production. So these are competitive grants. At its core, this is its mission, but this is a competitive grants agency. All these grants are competitive. Your idea is being judged against other, well, let's not put it that way. They're competitive, okay? So, right, since the beginning, $361 million have been put into SARE, and most of this is direct funding to farmers. Okay, so we're in the North Central region. It's a 12-state region, and we're the orange blob right there. And last year, 40 projects were funded around in Farmer Rancher Grant. 140 proposals were submitted. So it's getting more competitive the more we do outreach and education and things like that, but there's still a pretty good chance. And it seems like when you avail yourself of someone like Mary or Azula or any of our farm outreach workers, will help you to hone in on that grant. Will help you to review it and clarify your ideas and things like that. So Missouri actually has a pretty good kind of funding track record right now because we have good representation. So there are resources here to help you do better. And then our Farmer Rancher Grant Coordinator of the whole 12-state region, Joan Benjamin, is based at Lincoln University, and you can contact her here directly. And she's very, very helpful. So anything that isn't clear out of this, and after you go to the website, because the SARE website is very excellent, and they have well-produced videos. If you have any questions, Joan is very accessible, and this is how you get a hold of her. Okay, and we're lucky to have her in the state of Missouri. SARE itself is run out of the University of Minnesota. This region's SARE. Okay, so let's just dial down a little bit more. Your idea, it must be focused on sustainable ag. We see, yeah, sustainable ag. You have to have an understanding of what it is. And is a confinement hog operation in this rubric? Probably not, okay? So let's have an idea of what's going on with sustainable agriculture. I put this in red, builds on previous research and cite. So SARE funds citizen scientists, right? Most of us are not professional scientists. We're working our farm, but we see a problem that we want to find a solution to. Well, other farmers have had these ideas. You know, so what has been funded in the past, and how are you going to take that to the next level? And really within these proposals, across any grant proposal, list the number of the grant project and the title of the grant that you are building upon. You'll get that out of the SARE database. So simple writing, excellent letters of support. Usually that could be through extension. It could be a not-for-profit agency. It could be your expert you're working with, or a farmer who demonstrates need. It could be a community member who says, we need a youth education program at my community center because of X, you know? So just demonstrated need and demonstrated partnerships with the type of people you want to be serving. Have a correct budget is huge, and SARE will really work with you on that. I think the budget is really where partnering with extension can help you really clarify what's going on, but pay yourself for your time. SARE wants you to pay yourself for the time spent on your grant, and that can be $20 an hour. you know? So that's gonna be the time you spent counting flies on your cattle, perhaps, or I'm looking at Mary because she had to do that. My farming partner had a project where she was using dog hair as mulch, and she had to pick up dog hair from groomers, and you know. So pay for yourself to do that kind of stuff. And then really just with the management ideas, just detailed daily notes, even if it is a 3-ring binder and paper and pen, analog is fine. This program was started in 1988 before the internet. You know, they have people who turn in hard copies still, but or get as complicated as you want with, you know, Shopify systems or whatever else people use. I think this is really big. It's much easier for grants income are taxable. So let's say you're using a QuickBooks system, right? You need to have its own chart of accounts and manage that fund separately from your general fund. And if all that's confusing to you, again, you call us an extension and we'll talk to you about it. The main thing is, with any of our businesses, you keep track of every receipt. And with SARE, you know, if you spend money before your project is funded, that will not be reimbursed. You have to have your signed contract. So just keep track of all that, how much money we're spending. And if we're incorporated properly, it'll be a business expense, right? Okay, and communicate with SARE if you're having problems. We want you to succeed. Okay, the big thing here, this is a really important slide. It's going to come out to you in the PowerPoint. You may want to snap a picture of it or just look at it. This is the SARE website, right? And with the URL, the address for it, this is where you find the previously funded projects. So if you have an idea about, what was I talking about today? Right, my secret, not so secret dream of growing sugar snap peas all year round, right? Because it's a high value crop, kids like it, it's good with nutrition, but you can't grow them on in summer, and it's really hard to get them to germinate in fall, or it's hard to germinate in summer and grow on through fall because of daylight, blah, 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 blah. But has anyone worked on that? So I'm going to go and search this database to see season extension sugar snap peas, or someone sent this really interesting video to me the other day of a hermitage cabin that was kept warm by bees. So the cabin itself that you slept in was like a huge beehive. Does that make sense? And that's how it kept this ambient temperature within it. Was like the bees and something. Anyway, it makes me want to search. Has anyone done anything on that? So you can be, you know, from biochar to dog hair. This is where you find it and you write it down and you build on it. It doesn't matter if your idea was tried in 1996, right? Maybe it was tried in 96. Maybe it was tried in 2002. Maybe it was tried in 2017. Well, you know what? This cycle, you're going to try something new and you're building on it, right? Okay, so some guidelines. Just how does SARE define a farmer, right? Is someone who raises crops or livestock, especially as a business. Great. A team and or group grant farmer participants must be separate farms. And then team and group grant must designate a project coordinator. Okay, sorry, I got a little distracted over there. Thank you, Azula, for closing the door. I appreciate you. Okay, so team and group grant farmer participants must be separate farms. Does that make sense? Right, you have a different farm number. You're not the same farm. And then here's this bit about proposal, evaluation, and scoring. I think it's really helpful just to see the breakdown. So the way the SARE grants work is the application is due December 7th. Okay, we in extension, me, Ms. Mary, Ms. Zula, Ms. Lisa, whoever is on this call who's in extension, I'm gonna speak for all of us. If you want us to review your SARE Farmer Rancher grant, please get it to us by like before Thanksgiving would be ideal to help you out as much as possible, but it's due December 11th. Okay, and then what happens is there's all the grants get put in from the 12 states, get assigned to different review groups. And there's maybe 5 or 6 people in these farmer rancher grant reviews. And then everyone reads it and scores it and then comes together and talks about it and then makes suggestions for what's going to be funded and what's not going to be funded. Right. And that's those are sort of graded upon the project leader or team. Project design, that's your highest, that's 30%. So if we look at like scientific training, that would sort of be your methodology. What is your research going to look like? How are you going to keep track of it? How are you going to, what does your experiment look like, for instance? Okay. Contribution to the growth of sustainable agriculture. Outreach is the second highest. Because we're sharing the results of this. Then evaluation, meaning how are you judging whether or not your grant was a success? You don't have to have a successful grant. You're doing research. You're trying to decide if using dog hair as mulch on cut flowers is a good idea, right? And if we find out it's not a good idea, that's okay. But we share this with other people, right? Once you go into this realm, your knowledge becomes public, okay? And then an appropriate budget. So this is what it's graded on. Let's just dial down a little bit on the budget. But before we do that, oh, sorry. I wanted to pause here. Is there anyone have a question? How am I doing on time? Probably sucking tons of it, huh?
It's about 6:30.
Okay. Any questions? Does anyone? Or just keep plowing on through?
Thank you, Miranda. I had a question.
Yes, Margot.
Thank you. How far away do the partnering farms have to be from one another to qualify? They need to be pretty close. I'm thinking like 30 or 45 miles, but can you?
Oh, yeah, I think that's acceptable, Margot. Are you saying can the farm be right next door to each other, or could the farm be? It would
How
have to
far?
be
How far?
regional.
What's the limit?
You know, I'm looking at my fellow SARE grant people here, and I think it just needs to be within the 12 state region. But Margot, I know how to get a hold of you.
Yes,
I know how to get a hold of you. And this is the thing. If I don't know the answer to the question, I sure know where to figure it out. So I'll get
Awesome.
back to you.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Yes.
What if the farms are in 2 different states, Missouri and Illinois?
Right. Also, across 2 different states. That is, I think still that's okay.
Yeah, I think it's okay.
I think that's okay. I just think that I want to make sure I'm giving out the best information possible. Yeah, I think across region, like I really like the idea of farmer study groups, for instance. Like, let's say someone wants to grow cut flowers and they want to learn all about it, but it's sort of hard because they may show up at my farmer's market. So I don't necessarily want to have a study group with someone who's selling at my farmer's market, but I want to study with someone who is in the same agricultural zone, right? So this could be an idea of maybe across zone study groups. We've done that with the cut flowers. Someone who's in zone 6B, 7A, but lives in Maryland, we're going to meet together to talk about growing, you know? Okay. So let's just, what is the budget allowed? We could spend money on personnel, meaning us or our employees to do the work, materials and supplies, travel. Ms. Mary helped me looked it up for us. It's 65 cents a mile. And then other direct costs. So consultants or communications. Communications could be helping to pay for producing a video or a fact sheet or your I don't know, like rap song about spotted wing Drosophila. I don't know what that would be exactly, but this would be along communication lines, speaker fees, things like that. And then equipment. Now, equipment here is $5,000 or more is considered equipment, and SARE will pay 50% of this, right, with justification. So that would be something that would be permanent fencing or even perennials. You know, that's a long-term investment. Okay. What's not allowed? Okay, well, it's not for everyday farming expenses, starting or expanding a farm operation, equipment more than $5,000. We can't buy land with this. We can't really put in a water line with this, you know, right? Constructing or remodeling a building, nope. Any meal that does like meals, we'll just get into that, and testing of specific commercial products. So that would be sort of like if you're trying to develop something for sale. It's a little confusing. We could talk to Joan about it, but really what comes up more is people asking for buying equipment or starting or expanding a farm operation. Okay. So this year, the grant cycle is due December 7th. In spring, there'll be, the grants usually start between April 1 and May 1, and that's when 50% of your funds are available. So for something like the specialty crop block grant or the Missouri Department of Ag Urban Agriculture matching grant, you need to have money, you need to have a match, meaning, let's say you want to do a project for $2,000, you need to pony up 1,000 of it, right? And most of the time it's reimbursable, right? So that's kind of like the trick with grants is, oh, you have to have all that money up front and then submit a receipt. Well, with SARE, they release the funds up front, right? And then you have to complete your guidelines. Okay. So, and then when you put in your progress reports, you'll get 35% of the funds, and then 15% is the end, the final payment, and you need to have your report due.
There's a question.
Yes. Thank you.
Hi, Miranda, this is Eric. So on the previous slide, it said that there was funding available for fencing, and then that slide that you just had up said it does not include fencing. So can you give us?
Yeah, so this would be portable fencing is acceptable. So that would be like, let's say you're doing a rotational grazing system and you're, it will pay for 50% of your permanent perimeter fencing, but it would pay for the interior netting for a rotational grazing system.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, you are most welcome. Actually, the SARE grants have been really fun this year, was about using these shock collars instead of fencing. It was pretty fascinating.
I have a
Okay,
question.
yeah, go ahead.
So if, let's say you wanted to do some sort of research project on how to irrigate your crops in a better manner. So the grant wouldn't pay for like the different irrigation types, or because would that be considered equipment or?
Yeah, so this is when we really need to look at like more specifically at your grant, but something like drip tape or like lay flat line, that would be most likely acceptable, right?
Okay.
But putting in a water line, hooking up from the city, you know, from like laying a $15,000 water line, which we need to do at Urban Buds, would not be acceptable.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're so welcome. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. Okay, I better speed up. So, so we're talking about the Farmer Rancher Grant. The projects may last up to 23 months. We have the numbers again. 40 projects were funded last year. Here's an example of one here in our St. Louis. This was funded in 2022. A team workers cooperative food system approach to climate resilience. Beth Neff of Marsh Cooperative. So Mr. Mitch was part of this grant, weren't you, Mitch? Yep, Mitch was here. He's in the room with us. It was a partnership grant, if you look by the money, but a farmer rancher partnership. And they were developing strategies for climate resilience in low income neighborhood through a cooperative approach. And part of that was putting in community gardens. Do you have anything to say, or anyone who's familiar with this one? Mary was familiar with this one. Mitch, maybe Nikki, are you familiar with it? Does anyone have any thoughts on this? No? Okay. So here was their cooperative and grocery store. Okay. They have ceased the cooperative grocery. Sadly, that economic model was very challenging in capitalism as we know it. Okay, so here's another example. Individual cover crop prescribed burning and nutrient profile, right? So this one's more science based. So we had one sort of kind of around climate change and community resilience and food security. So that worked as a farmer rancher grant. And now we have one that's sort of more of a like a growing methodology using prescribed burns with cover crop. Okay. The next one is about the partnership one. We talked about how this is to foster cooperation between ag professionals and groups of farmers. This could be developing a curriculum about food storage. I've seen one that was developing a recipe curriculum, or new grazing systems, which with Susan Jaster did, who works with us at Lincoln University. They can be up for 24 months, 50,000 total funding. The ag professional is sort of what we call the PI, the principal investigator, or the project coordinator. Okay, that's who's going to sort of hold the grant and do the reporting to SARE. And usually there's 3 or more farmers. Okay. Here's an example one, urban and rural mentorships for aspiring and beginning women farmers. That was coming out of Iowa. They had a skill building camp. And then this one, this one's near and dear to my heart right here, is St. Louis Sustainable Stock Apiary, local queen breeding development with Jane Sumi and the St. Louis beekeepers. This project is, yeah, I'm very proud of this project. And that's currently what my bees are, is coming out of this project. So I'm going to say about that, but I'm proud of that project. And then here's a couple pictures of that local queen rearing initiative, queen breeding. And then here's a picture from Susan's goat project with regenerative ag with grazing. Okay, here's youth educator. Opportunities for youth to learn about sustainable agriculture, supports projects by youth educators, trying to, as a viable career option as well, right? So not just like doing a project, but how could we maybe parlay this into some kind of paid gig, you know? So Erica Williams was funded. She is here in town with a Red Circle is her not-for-profit, and she did a food injustice fellowship program, 9 months, 18 to 26-year-old with an entrepreneurship component. Here she is. Hi, Erica. Hi, Erica. She's not on here. Okay, now this is the research and education grant that we're have up on the screen right now. These can range from 10,000 to 250,000, and they can last for 36 months. We usually fund like 10 to 14 of these a year, but we get a lot of applicants. It's now at the point where people put in a pre-proposal, so you don't have to spend your whole time making a proposal. The pre-proposals are screened, then you're invited, right? You're invited to submit a full proposal, which then gets screened again. And then maybe you're funded or not. And I'm staring at Ryan over here because even though I don't know them that well, I'm so proud of them because it's a hard process. And usually it's for like like really good grant writers and PhDs and things like this. So with farmer components. So all these need to be like farmer led and have really strong farmer leadership. So that's what happens. Okay, and all these projects have to have a strong outreach component. So here's an example from Missouri. It's from 2021 to improve the health and safety of women farmers by adopting farm tools and equipment. This was University of Missouri. And we thank the University of Missouri Extension for hosting us here tonight as well. Just want to put in a little plug there. But this is an example of one of their projects. And then another one, can cover crops pay, right? And this unraveling yield enhancement on wide scale to provide incentive for increased adaptation. Okay, wow, that's a lot. So these are examples. Now, where do you, oh, sorry. You can search those databases for all of these grants. And right now, if you go on the SARE website, you can search what was funded last year. Okay. Previously funded projects are there. It's northcentralsare.org. Okay, we are really lucky that in Missouri, we have 2 state coordinators, co-coordinators. So Joan Benjamin does the Farmer Rancher Grant Program on the SARE level, and then each state has co-coordinators. One is Dan Downing at the University of Missouri. The other one is Dr. Toria Eaton at Lincoln University. So both of these people are people you can use as resources to help with SARE. And then I need to mention dear friend, respected colleague, Ms. Debbie Kelly. She's a field specialist in horticulture for the University of Missouri Extension. She's out of the Hillsborough office, and she is a grants maven. And she will tell it like it is, my friends. And so if you're open for constructive criticism, Debbie is a good person to help with that. So here's a person there. Okay, I think we're I don't want to encroach on any more time, but I have tips for a good proposal here that will be included. It again covers the 50% rule of the permanent fencing or perennial seeds, plants, and livestock. This also includes what it means when these grants talk about being socially disadvantaged or historically underserved, right? That includes farmers and ranchers who are beginning farmers under 10 years in production, socially disadvantaged, veterans, and limited resource, meaning limited financial resources usually. Just to clarify, people always ask me this, but sort of the queer identities, gender identities, this does not count in these grant proposals as being underserved. Okay. So we already talked about this. When you get into the PowerPoint, I encourage you to look at developing your team, and it'll explain a little bit about these land grant universities, which are sort of an important piece to working with these federal grants. So Lincoln University, University of Missouri, we're land grant institutions funded by the U.S. Department of Agriculture to help teach you about grants from the university or from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, right? We're the outreach arm. So these are sort of people or collaborating agencies that would be a good point of reference for you. And most of these services are free. Okay, that would be Cooperative Extension. Okay, so here again is the list of people that I just wanted to put up, how to get a hold of us. And I'm going to bring up Ryan right now after we just kind of shake it out a little bit, see if there's any more questions, if there's any clarifying statements here. Let's just open it up for a sec. Anything in the chat? Yeah. Would that be Mitch from Phi Global Farms? Yes. Says Eric in the chat. Okay, good. All right.
I
Well,
have a question. Is this only for folks that are in Missouri, or can you still find your contacts, or how do you find contacts for other states?
Yeah, so cooperative extension is in every state in the United States. And so you can look on, you could Google search USDA land grant cooperative extension. Where are you? What's your state?
I'm in Kansas.
Okay, yeah, so that would be Kansas State, right?
K-State Extension.
K-State Extension, right? So that would be like at Olathe, but Kansas State Extension. So some of them are like University of Missouri, but some are Washington State, right? And then we have like Tuskegee University or Lincoln University. So there's a whole list on the on a government website. You can also email me directly and I'll make sure you know who to get a
Okay.
hold of.
Thank
Okay,
you.
yeah. Yeah, there's some great people. There's great things happening in Kansas right now. My goodness. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, as we switch between Miranda and Ryan,
Thank you, Miranda, for outlining SARE's wonderful options for supporting farmers with their closer imaginative projects. I'm Ryan, everybody. I'm a farmer from Kansas City, Missouri, the other side of the state. Sankara Farm is the name of our farm. This image is from a play that we had on our farm just a couple of weeks ago, maybe about several weeks ago. It wasn't supported by a SARE grant. It was actually supported by the Charlotte Street Foundation, which is an arts organization in Kansas City. But the two programs that are on the screen, the Community Soil Science Cooperative, with the image of George Washington Carver there in the logo, and the Returning Generation Black Farmers Collective are two of three SARE grants that the farm has been awarded. George Washington Carver, he's Lincoln University, of course, has an affinity and it's kind of guided by his example of, bringing knowledge from the university, to the farmer, to the community. And SARE, incentivizes a lot of that. And, George Washington Carver is also an artist, so that, this image in painting there, and Fannie Lou Hamer, and serves as an inspiration and aspiration for us at Sankara Farm. She was a freedom farmer, in Mississippi. She also would have, scored well on SARE grants as far as social sustainability, and then Fela Kuti and Thomas Sankara, they're that's a nice image of us on the farm a few weeks ago. But innovative projects that SARE supports. You can even make up words, So kind of like Miranda was saying, there's new terminology that comes out. This is what knowledge production can mean, new solutions to problems, coming up with innovative solutions. So in terms of farming while Black and growing in the context of historically underserved, or in the category of historically underserved, in terms of USDA, FSA, there's, this approach, Afroecology is, we can give a definition for it, both the science of sustainable agriculture and a political project. Agroecology works to decentralize power and promote equity and ecological resilience in our food systems. And it's kind of, the definition of sustainability that SARE gives is there's a lot of different it's kind of elastic, you know, there's several different regenerative, traditional ecological practices, organic, beyond organic. Some people just call it farming, you know. But there's you can articulate that all in your proposal as to how your approach to farming sustainably fits within the way they see it as well. So a little bit more about the farm. It's 27-acre family farm, purchased in 2017. And we have a wonderful the little blue river down the valley. It's on that side of the state, some ancestral land of the Missouri and the Oto and there's other indigenous folks throughout that region that we're in. And we do a lot of workshops and education, working primarily with people of color and trying to reconnect people to a vision of being on a farm, you know. That slide's in there twice. It should be in there twice, though, I'm saying. So, it's a little bit about me and my partner, Azula. Some of these bios, I mean, that's one of the things you'll get from working on grants is that you need a bio, you know, and, you know, being able to be comfortable talking about yourself, taking an account of what you've been up to. I mean, a lot of farmers have 37 different projects and, you know, that wouldn't consider them as, you know, things that they would go on their bio, things that kind of shape, you know, the work they do. But it's, you know, it's, yeah, that's one important thing about the grant writing process. But, and then the three of the grants that we were awarded, and like I was saying, you know, it's all your language. So what you call your grant is whatever you want to call it. You know, you can use a whole bunch of alliteration. You know, freedom farm to family. You know, food to freedom to farm to, you know. But or you can have a very, you know, kind of scientific, you know, precise definition, a citizen science approach to building multiple Johnson soup bioreactors to increase soil health, vegetable nutrient density, and urban food sovereignty. You know, or it can sound, you know, very empowering. BlackEmancipatory agriculture asset map and returning generation Black farmer mentorship program. So it can you know, it's a space to really shape the impact that your project will have, or the aspirations for the impact that your project will have. It's just some images of projects in motion on the farm, outreach, education, hands-on learning. You know, SARE, you know, they like to incentivize innovation, and innovation and outreach oftentimes is can be having a printing party, you know, collective art making. A lot of farmers I meet are artists, so you know, being able to integrate that into how both you invite people to the farm and share the innovative knowledge production, just knowing more about, you know, how the plants do throughout the season, throughout this, you know, this changing climate. So the Returning Generation Black Farmer Collective is the one half of the research and education grant. And it's a mentorship program that pairs established Black farmers with new and emerging Black farmers to just get that intergenerational succession planning, so that you know, the number of Black farmers in the state of Missouri will go up and not down. You know, and there's you know, part of the grant writing process, you know, they'll ask you to define the problem or the need that your grant is going to solve or fix. You know, and so I mean, for instance, this one, the Missouri census data stated that, you know, there's only 207 Black farmers in the state of Missouri. So you know, if that's a problem, you know, and there's lots and lots of solutions. And so sometimes what one defines as a problem rather than just kind of normal, can help uncover an innovative project just waiting to be articulated. So it's a mentorship program, and so we have 5 mentor farmers, and along with book study, hands-on learning, and just one-on-one mentorship, we'll get this. I use the word collective when I titled it, and so it's it's the goal is to shape it into a collective. But on the screen here is just images of the app that I built. I have that I'm building to kind of help organize this project, so our mentees can have a kind of a little bit like an internal social kind of media thing, so we can connect with each other and stay connected to program dates and happenings. So a little bit of our host farmers, Mike Rowland has a wonderful farm down at 18th and Vine. Each of our host farmers have a different specialty or emphasis of their practice, their business practice. So the mentees will be able to pair up with folks or farmers who best reflect what their goals and aspirations are. Mr. Davis, Olivia Moore. It's so we have the other half of it is the Black Emancipatory Agriculture Asset Map, which is an asset mapping project, which is instead of kind of using a deficit, historically underserved, lacking this, lacking that, food desert, food apartheid. There's that way of looking at food insecurity, food apartheid, but there's also a lot of assets that exist among places where Black people live, and so that itself was an innovative approach. Just looking at an asset-based mode or model at what does contribute to an emancipatory agriculture within a food desert, and just asking that question, is a resource question. So we're gonna use drones with LiDAR, which is being able to get a kind of fine-grained detail of the surface. So farms, spaces within food deserts, spaces designated food deserts. And so we'll be able to basically, get an assessment of the kind of current geography of food apartheid, and then be able to kind of project into the future where spaces will be amenable to production, sustainable production, while we're also doing interviews and kind of incorporating interviews and stories about where the food options used to be in places that were not always food deserts. The places used to be, 18th and Vine is the area in Kansas City that used to be a kind of a thriving business district where you could find food, local food. And then the people living around the area planted fruit trees, pecans, apples, pears, peaches, and you could see, chicken coops that, kind of go under the term urban blight nowadays. But those sites could be reactivated as production sites because they once were. So it just kind of helps. Our asset map will, be a vision of the past, present, and future of agriculture in these areas. Oh, there's a little animation on that. Okay. So the Community Soil Science Cooperative it's one of the partner grants. Is it a partnership grant? Yeah, it's a partnership grant. It's a farmer rancher, sorry. And they also, I get it confused because they incentivize you to partner with people. And so we partnered with Antioch Urban Growers, KC Farm School, and Tracy Garden to do research on Johnson Su bioreactors. What's the best temperature to produce fungally active compost? What are the best conditions to produce these fungally active composts? And how does it perform in the field? Some of our basic questions, which are really core to your SARE proposal. What are you measuring? Because there's I mean, we layer a lot of things onto our projects and into our grants. So there's art, there's a lot of outreach, there's the data collection, there's testing and kind of trialing of new equipment. And so it's easy to kind of get lost in, you know, how you know, all the things that you're trying to learn with the SARE grant, and just, you know, retain those 2 or 3 core things that you're measuring, so that you can still have all the fun, but still have the data as to what was the temperature and how did it grow. But to help actually with keeping track of the temperature, one of these data points, we wrote this into the grant by using Arduino microcontrollers. And well, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but it's so our community soil science, it raises awareness of soil ecology using art, produces compost, and provides access to research tools. Those are kind of our basic pillars. And then doing that, you know, we're you know, I mean, I really do feel just following the path of Carver in his Michael Jessup, you know, and taking the microscope out and looking at soil, using art, and just you know, the shift in perspective from you know, market-based and heavy input-based chemistry, you know, to produce, you know, an outcome, to biology and, you know, life, which is what Carver was also working on. So we're continuing that and using, you know, kind of tools of our century, microcontrollers and Bluetooth, you know. But this was, I mean, the community soil science project, you know, I felt it was a strong proposal just because of the Johnson Su. We were researching Johnson Su. You know, we looked up, and Johnson Su was a composting method that was David Johnson and Sue Chin. I think they're at the University of Arizona, somewhere in the Southwest, but they're producing compost in a similar way that Carver said. He's like, go in the woods and get leaves. And, you know, there's this life in the forest that'll help the life in your soils, you know. And it's a similar thing. You collect leaves, you put them in a aerated structure, and then over a few months, those leaves will compost into soil. The addition of worms is one of the practices that help to make this beneficial fungally active compost. You know, that's gonna be good for our soils. So that in itself was a project, you know. And then we kind of layered on top this, you know, these keeping track of temperature and humidity with Arduinos, which, you know, could be another project, you know. That's kind of some of the feedback that the grant writing folk or the grant committee will give to you, is that, which is really valuable information, even if it's not awarded. I think they still give you feedback. But some of the feedback that I got was that there's 3 projects in this one proposal. So which one do you want to do? And I did bring a piece of equipment that we as part of this grant. Y'all could come take a look at it, because it's we're using these soil sensors. You can kind of see the video of me playing with it here. These really beautiful soil sensors that have this etching of a root on there to track the temperature and humidity of our compost. yeah, I mean, it in the process of doing our first SARE grant and doing this one, like I was saying, there's new problems that arise, which then seem like another SARE grant, you know. And so the Community Soil Science Cooperative will also have, say, app in development that is kind of, you know, our outreach plan. Well, in addition to the zines that Missoula is folding up over there, and y'all are welcome to take home one of the zines. It's again one of the ways that we decided to accomplish that outreach requirement for the grants, and also knowing that, you know, part of why there is a historically underserved community is because, you know, outreach efforts have been, you know, not fully, you know, happening, you know. And so to improve on outreach, you know, there's, you know, the artist side of me is like, well, it's not that hard. You know, you paint a pretty picture. And so, and then, but it's not enough to paint a pretty picture. I mean, there's, you know, art is not that accessible, you know what I mean? But you know, oil paintings, you know, there's only one. Or, you know, there's sculptures, you know, but zines and prints, you know, printmaking and zines are one of those modes that you can print out 1,000 of them, and, you know, everybody can have one. So everybody, please. But it's, and there's more information on, you know, how to join the project, how to keep track of the project, the Discord, in the zine for the Community Soil Science Project. And I think that's my last slide. So, yeah, if y'all have any questions, feel free. I'd love to answer some. The Johnson Sioux bioreactors? Yes. So we there's a group in Kansas City, Healing the Soil, Healing the Earth, that we were having just weekly conversations about that very topic, healing the soil, healing the earth. And from biochar, you know, carbon sequestering, and just paying attention to research in the field, you know, that was Marty Kraft, one of the Tracy Gardens, he runs Tracy Gardens in Kansas City. He's one of the members of the Healing Soil, Healing Earth group. But he brought this research into our group, and we talked about it. You know, and he's been building Johnson Sioux around Kansas City. I mean, it's with being able to produce fungally active compost will, you know, increase the fungal activity in our soils. And so essentially it's inoculating the soil in all of Kansas City with beneficial mycorrhizal fungi, because it'll connect farms across state lines with nobody knowing.
Yeah.
You know, so that's one of the goals, you know, and it grew out of that just collective of farmers. And then, you know, the SARE grant kind of grew out of these conversations. We already had people in conversation about how to heal the soil and heal the earth. A process, Johnson Sioux, you know, seemed interesting, but it hadn't been tried in this climate, in this zone, you know. So therein was the data that we wanted to share with everybody. Was like, we can do this in our climate too, you know. So that was, I mean, that's the other thing about previous projects. I mean, if you can do, you know, I mean, people were doing Johnson Sioux and different composting projects in, you know, Florida, Arizona. I mean, there's a few years ago, more than a few, I guess it's 10 years ago now, I got a chance to go to Cuba on a food sovereignty tour. And there, I mean, my mind was blown with the level of sustainable agriculture and innovation that was there. Methane, you know, there are people producing methane, you know, from livestock, you know, and, you know, there's, and at scales that were hand scale, you know, there's a lot of innovation that happens in, you know, in the United States, but it's not at hand scale. You know, you need to call a technician to come change the GPS on the tractor or something, you know. But in Cuba, it was, you know, hand scale and supported through similar, you know, extension services. But it was, I mean, just seeing the level of innovation, and probably out of necessity down there. But you know, composting, energy transformation, you know, from pig manure to methane, solar, agroforestry. You know, like it was, you know, the banana trees and then sweet potatoes and taro and yucca, all in these planting systems. So it was, but that, you know, can we grow taro and yucca in Kansas City? You know, this is one of the questions I've been wondering for a long time. I think one of the first SARE workshops I went to was, you know, that's kind of the idea that I had, was trying to grow these culturally relevant crops in Kansas City, because there's a, you know, increasing population of folks from the global South, you know, that eat, you know, that would like these options in the grocery store. That's kind of what, you know, food sovereignty in practice, you know, access to, you know, culturally appropriate, nutritionally rich food produced in an ecologically sustainable manner. So yeah, we there's so much space for that in our you know, in a food system that's not operating at full capacity, you could say. Any more questions? I'm gonna have to do the Zoom question.
Is there anything in the chat? Let's look in the chat. I'm having computer problems. Oh, bye, Karen. Okay. See anything else? Ryan, I want to thank you for making the big effort to come here and share with us your work. It was actually your zine that first caught my eye about you. And I said, well, who's making zines? And Azula was like, oh yeah. And then I was like, I need to meet this person. So I'm really happy about the work that you're doing and that you're sharing it with us. Right now we sort of have a Q&A. We have Mary's here, Azula's here. We have Mitch and Nikki and other people in the room who have great ideas. We can talk about it. We could talk about in the chat if people have specific questions, or in years past, we've kind of started, people have been like, what about this idea? What about that idea? Or we could talk about trends that we're sort of seeing, what's sort of exciting to maybe SARE right now, or sort of other programs. So we're going to kind of open it up, but I'm gonna call on Mary and Azula and Mitch and everyone here to join that conversation if you're interested at this point. Anything exciting going on?
Can I get a copy of the Zoom?
Yeah. We had a request for the copy of the zine.
And if I can, I've got a phone who would probably going to get you one more.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow.
One of the things I wanted to just touch upon that I thought was helpful that Ryan said was the idea of if you aren't funded, try again. Or even come to this workshop. Mary came like 3 years in a row before she applied with her interesting projects. So, you know, if you do get feedback, and you can take that and hone your proposal. And then from a reviewer's angle, it looks pretty good to see a reapplication. Like someone reapplying, like you're trying, you know, you're making effort, right? Move forward. So I wanted to say about that. Yeah. Does anyone have any idea that they maybe want to bring about, talk about?
Has anyone here applied for a SARE grant before? Yeah.
Okay, Azula asked if anyone was, Mr. Mitch applied.
I would offer the advice to have someone, unfamiliar with your subject material, like a grant reviewer, one of us, but maybe someone who isn't familiar with your topic, review it, because you don't know on the review committee if those reviewers are going to know all about cattle. Like, for example, I had someone who was not familiar with cattle read through my proposal, and one of the suggestions was, can't you separate them each into their own paddock? No, they're herd animals, and I can't do that. And that's 3 times more work every day. But they didn't know, but that could have been a question that a reviewer might have had. And so then I put in a couple of sentences about their behavior and why we move them the way we move them. And I got to sit in on the review committees last year and just hearing from completely different perspectives how they look at proposals. And so I'll quote Debbie Kelly because I sat in on her as she taught this workshop many times, that I would rather end up with a funded proposal and maybe have someone give me a lot of harsh critique along the way if I end up funded. And so definitely, Miranda and I both are happy to send it to multiple people that we have at Lincoln to review it, because they may come at it from a perspective of someone from the review committee, and then it'll give you the opportunity to put some clarifying things in. Sometimes we're so ingrained in our type of farming, we assume everyone lives and breathes the same thing we live and breathe, and we all come from different backgrounds. So yeah, goes along.
Yeah, I think along those lines, like just not using acronyms, spelling out actually what it means the first time, right? And then you can refer to it as an acronym, SARE, Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education, parenthesis, SARE, end parenthesis. And then for the rest of your proposal, you can just write SARE, but if you don't do that definition, we see farmers do this all the time. It's like, what are you talking about?
And that word count too.
Yeah.
I mean, just the application process, I think, just starting early, like there's questions that are in the RFP, but there's usually a couple extra questions in the actual application portal, kind of like, describe yourself or describe your farming operation, quick 100, 200 word kind of definition. And then, and it's important to be, clear if there's acronyms or terms that are what they call provincial, you only use them in your area, that you kind of make them plain to folks that aren't even in your state. Starting to apply before the day is due helped a lot. I love to procrastinate. And also, I've worked with other granting bodies, art grants, and artist grants are very lenient. They're like, what do it's very lenient. And so, but not every granting, organization is the same. If like the Missouri Department of Agriculture had its own some kind of peculiarities. And this year, part of the reimbursement was federal funds. So, there's more paperwork to fill out. But SARE grants are a really nice sweet spot because they want to incentivize innovation and creativity, while also just actually helping you keep track of your grant. Like some of the art grants are, there's not the midterm reporting and just the portal on the window to put in your budget numbers, which helps. This helps the grant reporting tremendously, being able to, the way the templates are there for you. And there's so much research. On the SARE's website, that was a place that we spent a lot of time looking at projects that were very close to what we were thinking, dealing with this, Johnson Sue's, in different climates, and seeing how you can add to, existing research that's out there is just as innovative. And doing it in a different region, doing it with a different population, trying it with a different crowd. I mean, there's just a. I mean, I feel like there's an opening for innovative agriculture projects from folks that come from non-farming families,
Right, and there's an openness to that interdisciplinary work, right? The citizen scientists, farmer scientists, but also the artist scientists, right? Or how we're bringing in all of these sort of various pieces of our like interests and personalities into these projects. And I think what's really special about SARE is that you can do it with organization, but not necessarily all this credentialing, like they could take a chance on you and your idea. So, and I'd say we sort of talk about trends like, or what people are excited in agriculture. Do you mind if I like open that up to the group a little bit? I'm always curious to be like what brought you here? What makes you think, like, what's getting you jazzed these days? They're like jazzed, nothing.
I'd love to see your soil sensors.
Oh, sure.
Oh, I think someone's getting excited about soil sensors. That's my kind of crowd here today.
I'll talk about it then.
Okay.
Yeah, talk about it.
Because I think the education grant is coming up December 1st. But I think y'all can see that on the Zoom and for the room. This is a soil sensor. I should hold it right side up. This is a soil sensor that we were able to put together with support of the SARE, the Community Soil Science Grant. And it's not a permanent equipment on the farm. So it was, it passed the budget.
That wasn't $5,000.
No, it was only like $20. It's got leaves in it and stuff. But so it's in Arduino, which is a microcontroller. It takes analog signals in and will send a digital signal to a computer. So analog signal from the soil, from actually our compost, humidity and temperature goes to the Arduino, which goes to a laptop that so we can just keep track of did it freeze, because microbial life in the soil doesn't want to freeze. Right. And so, but I've been getting a lot of requests because other people have other applications for this on their spaces, and so that, and as far as, one of the goals, like the education grant is what I was, that was kind of top of my mind, because one of the social sustainability questions that SARE asks and the outreach is, how are you going to share this idea with the community, and why does it matter? And so, the average age of farmers, 55 and up, and this gap between youth coming back to land, careers in ag, being able to use, technology to bring kids back in new and innovative ways. It felt like it, was a good project.
Go ahead. Did you have a comment, or was that your comment?
That was the comment, is that I would hands-on with the kit. I'm an engineer and it just fascinates me. So anyway.
You want to do more hands-on work with kids in agriculture?
No, I'm an engineer.
Oh, okay.
that kind of technology answer, I can think of 6 other places to use it.
Oh,
So
right, yeah.
I'm
She's seeing
interested
lots
in
of
that.
applications.
Mhm.
Yeah, I feel like once you kind of get into this mindset with these grants, or maybe it's just with farming or this work, it's like I see them everywhere now. I was driving home from I was out on this beautiful farm this morning. I was driving home. I had another grant idea, right? So they're just right. Do you kind of feel
Yeah,
that way, Ryan? Or like Mary Azula, now that you see them, I'm like, oh, we can improve this process or look at this sort of thing. One of the grants that really stuck out to me in one of the recent years funding cycles was this idea of what they called rematriating seeds. So like we have this idea of like the patriarchy, which is sort of which is this idea of like male dominated control systems, right? Where like the matriarchy is sort of like women-based, women-controlled systems, right? And so when we talk about like they were bringing back these seed, like regrowing these seeds in these communities that had been grown for hundreds and in some cases even like 1,000 years, it bringing back these old varieties and teaching people how to grow them and then how to cook with them. And that covers food sovereignty, it covers biodiversity and resiliency, and then tapping into different types of varieties that might do well as we're experiencing this climate change, right? So you can see how all these things start stacking. And that's where I think things are really exciting right now, is this interdisciplinary, or how can you hit with the kids and hit with nutrition and hit with art to move to advance these ideas, because people are hungry for it, right? They're hungry for it. There's also a lot of interest in hydroponics these days. And as we think about it in terms of sustainable agriculture, one of the debates is like, is that sustainable agriculture? Right? The government is putting a lot of energy into these indoor growing spaces right now, shipping containers or warehouses being turned into indoor growing spaces. So we may see that. I think we sort of see that as a policy sort of agenda, but is that ultimately like within sustainable agriculture? These are things we're thinking about. Yeah, the jury's, I think we're gonna say the jury's out on that one. We're not gonna. Is there a PDF on the zine?
On the website.
There is one.
Oh,
Posted
yeah,
database of our seeds.
that's a good question, because yeah, there is a zine on SARE's website, because when you do your outreach, if you have an output that's media, it's, you share it with the farming community. That's, why SARE supported you. And so we uploaded the zine to the SARE website. So if you you can search Sankara Farm on the SARE website. And then on the website, our website, there's, I know at least one zine that's up there in PDF download form. And the website is sankarafarm.com.
Miranda, would you send that link out and go with it, or somebody email the slide?
That was one thing. I mean, just for the media that you upload to the SARE website, I neglected to put SARE's logo on one of the first versions of the zine, and they just gently send me an email saying, "Hey, would you mind? We love the zine. Would you mind putting the logo on it?" So it's, I mean, as far as there's, I don't know if it's a kind of an asymmetrical power relation that funders have and the funded, or just because of the competitive nature of the SARE, but they're very amenable to working with you to get your project fulfilled. It's not like a kind of a gotcha or exercising kind of some kind of contract over your head. It was very yeah.
Oh, right, yes, this is what I was going to say. Sorry, it reminded me that one of the advantages of the SARE grad is you don't need a farm number, right? I think this is a really important piece that, does everyone in the room know what a farm number is? Okay, we got some head shaking. So this idea that you register your tract and your land and what you're doing with the Farm Service Agency, and they assigned you a number, right? That goes with your farm kind of essentially into perpetuity. And those are you have to have a farm number to participate in many of the natural resource conservation service programs, like the EQIP High Tunnel, for instance. Or if you'd like to get a lower interest loan from the Farm Service Agency, you need to have this farm number. But SARE does not require that farm number. So that's an advantage to some people who don't want to be as entrenched in sort of that system, right? Being on the grid in that way as having a farm number. This has been a really lovely evening. I'm so glad that you all came out. Would you like to, oh, is there another question? Oh, yeah.
In what ways have you incorporated art with your farm besides some of the logos? Like I saw your play. What other things are you doing? And are you seeing it attract like youth or people that not necessarily aren't interested in farming, but they're taking an interest because of it?
Well, it's thank you for the question. There's a lot of ways that we incorporated. One of the bringing youth to the farm has been one of the kind of outcomes of incorporating it, inviting kids to. Well, during 2020, I think that was part of one of the kind of some of the context that incentivized us to shift from CSA productions only and more focusing on CSA production to bringing people to the space for access to green space, psychological well-being, spiritual well-being, and education and healing. That was there were people stuck in apartments and school and all that stuff. So it just started out as folks within our community that needed access to space for the kids. And I've been teaching art after school, summer school for decades. So, I had all the stuff, supplies ready to go. But then we work under this black walnut tree and a mulberry tree. And so I was collecting black walnuts, I had them in a bucket, and then it rained. A few months later, I'm like, oh, this is ink. So we turned it into a workshop, and that one is, really kind of crystallized what how farmers can add more value than just market value of commodity crops. It's like these black walnuts were showing that we can, these trees are giving us tools to be creative, giving us ink, and we do printmaking with ink, black walnut ink. And it's inspired us to plant more plants for dyeing the fiber, that we can also grow, and then just have a kind of less than toxic art studio. But what other ways? We did a play, The Black Farmer's Two Dilemmas. It was a play on the farm. It was a wonderful event. It was we built the stage and it was a farm to table dinner theater. So we had a farm to table dinner, and then folks came over for the theater 2 nights, which was, it should have just been one.
Yeah.
What else? The zines. And as far as actually projection. We're doing projecting on top of our composters. A visualization of what the bacteria and the nematodes and the protozoa are doing. So, multimedia, I guess you could say, because I think I talk about arts-based knowledge translation in the research and education grant. same thing in the community soil science grant, using art to raise consciousness about soil biology. We all have an image in our mind of Old MacDonald, you know, which comes with art, you know, Little Children's Book, Green Tractor, you know, and so there's a set of images that can, you know, communicate that more farmers are just Old MacDonald, you know, there's different shapes and sizes, colors, genders of, you know, farmers. So we try to do it as many ways as possible, you know. So, yeah.
Yeah, I would like to add, just for our farm, it's a little easier, or not easier. We grow flowers, right? So flowers lend themselves so easily to, you know, artistic representation, things like that. But some of the things we've done has been like participate in museum events where like you're assigned a piece of artwork and then you need to sort of interpret that piece of artwork through flowers, right? So that's something people really enjoy with art. I think agritourism is really the trend more and more, like opening the farm up, like people are hungry for this authentic experience of sort of nature and what you're doing. So like inviting artists to open the farm up for photography sessions for people. They can book photography sessions if they want to build their portfolio with like beautiful flower pictures. Great. We just ask, like, can you share some with us? You know, something like that. That's a way to incorporate art. And then just real simple things. I love having bands on the farm. I love live music. So anytime there can be any measure of live music, I think people are excited for that too. So those are things we have done.
And there's also the healing arts.
Geez, let's get started there.
I mean, it's
oh wow.
I was looking at the video of a couple summers ago. We were doing soul sheet on the farm, but I mean, you know, cut flowers, medicinal herbs. You know, in addition to people being in a space that could be their happy place, you know, like the sensory. But then there's the healing arts, which, you know, all this medicine that's around, you know, just inviting kids to, you know, smell the chocolate mint, to talk about the yarrow, and, you know, it's that is also part of, you know, the art.
Like at schools or community centers or libraries, like creating like sensory, this was one project, creating a sensory labyrinth of like herbs. So like when kids needed a break, they weren't necessarily sent to like the principal's office. It was like, go walk around this like artfully designed labyrinth with these beautiful sensory herbs. I thought that was a really cool project. That was probably 8 years ago. Innovative. Okay, everyone. Well, we'll be here a little bit longer, but I think I'm gonna officially, what do you think, Ryan? Is your heart and mind clear? Do you have any last words of wisdom? Well, we have a microphone in front of us. It's so empowering. Does anyone want to run up and grab the microphone? Okay.
No, just feel, don't be scared. You know, there's a, don't be scared of a no. I mean, that no could be the beginning of another amazing proposal. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to build on, especially from George Washington Carver up here. He's, you know, there's, I mean, Lincoln, you know, there's a legacy of innovation that we've already done to get this far. Still growing food under food apartheid and being historically underserved. There's a lot of innovation that it's not looked at as such unless we, you know, look at ourselves with a fresh set of eyes.
Well, I thank you all for being here. I think my final thought is just what's exciting about Ryan's project and his presentation is looking at it from what assets do we have? Flipping that from a deficit mindset to a mindset of abundance. and we can take care of ourselves and the earth and each other. So thanks for being here. You know how to get a hold of us. We hope to see you again. This is Lincoln University Cooperative Extension. Appreciating all of you. Thank you to Andrew Erb running the tech, and everyone, good night.